Maybe they want something more.
Something
Dil
more.
mange more. POK, taking whole POK is out of question.
Bangladesh, initially wanted to play a role.
Bangladesh is no match. Local kind of operations.
Chun
So
chun ke marenge.
chun chun ke marenge.
We became the angry young man. You give me, I'll give you back good.
Yeah.
So war will bleed us out from all
Yes,
fronts.
definitely. It will take us back 10 years, 20 years.
Welcome back to yet another episode of Tea with Tanya. Today, the guest we have on board with us is none other than Brigadier K.K. Nayak. He has had an illustrious career of more than 3 decades in the core of Signal. He's also served as a scientist under NTRO, and he's also served as a chief signal officer of a strike corps, Indian Army. Sir, welcome to this episode of Tea with Tanya. Sir, you have had such an illustrious career in Army. Tell us about it.
Okay, Tanya, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. It's a pleasure, actually. Yes, I had been in core of signals. Okay, and mostly I have worked in signal intelligence. Normally, when you hear about army, you always think of the infantryman holding a rifle and shooting something, or a guns or tanks. You see all these things. Okay, but I was in a different war altogether, different type of war, which is known as electronic warfare, which plays a major role in the whole battlefield. Okay, we were the core of signals. Not only is responsible for the communications in the army, but it is also responsible for the electronic warfare. What exactly is electronic warfare? Broadly, if I can say, first thing is to intercept the enemy communications, get intelligence out of it. Second, if you cannot get intelligence out of it, make sure that enemy doesn't use the communication.
मतलब मेरा नहीं तो किसी का भी नहीं.
किसी का भी नहीं है.
That's a really nice
Yes.
strategy. Yes.
And third thing is, make sure that you communicate freely, securely, that enemy doesn't intercept your communications or
But I'm
jam
sure
your.
it works either ways.
Yes, it works either way. It's a cat and mouse game. Whosoever can do it better,
They are the
they're
winning
the
team.
winners in the electronic warfare. And electronic warfare, starting from Second World War days, is playing a major role in all battles. Let it be the battle in which US won over Kuwait in 1991, probably. In that, not a single US man got killed. Okay,
Just because of
just
the
because of the electronic warfare, they played a major role. They deceived the enemy by playing off the whole battlefield in a different place, where the Republican guards of the Iraqis, they were diverted to a different direction through electronic means, and that is how they won the battle without fighting it.
without actually letting
Yes,
anyone die.
yes,
So
that
this
that
could be the future of all wars.
this has been the past, and this will be the future. So nowadays, you must be hearing about the drone swarms being sent across by Russia or by Ukraine to Russia. This is the future of war. And you must have heard DRDO has come out with a laser gun. Through lasers or microwaves, they are going to shoot down the drones. How? It's not actually the bullets which are being fired.
Right.
They are going to spoil the electronic systems within the drones.
Right.
That is how they are going to shoot down they are going to make them ineffective, their systems. Okay. And similarly, you try and intercept their communication systems with the ground control system of the drone. And not exactly drones. When there are so many drones, you cannot get that. But at least make sure that the drones do not communicate. They do not get the signal from the ground control system.
Right.
So that is how you misguide those drones. So these are all electronic warfares.
Brigadier, I'll touch down to the previous statement that you made that, if you can't intercept the enemy channels, you would rather jam it. Just for the knowledge of public, how do you jam their signals?
See, when the communication takes place through the air, they use a particular frequency.
Right.
A frequency may be, they call it HF is high frequency, VHF is very high frequency, and similarly microwave. What we do is we come to know, yes, they are using this particular frequency.
Mm-hmm.
Now we start transmitting something, some Ghana, maybe Bollywood song in that particular frequency
Oh,
or
wow.
something, okay, in that particular frequency. So they are not able to use that frequency. Now what happens is they will jump to another frequency.
Right.
They have backup frequencies, and we also have means of knowing that frequency also. And as I said, it's a cat and mouse. Once I get it, they then there is something called frequency hopping,
Mm-hmm.
and we also come to know what is this hopping sequence. So and of course now the much more complex things which have come up in the electronic warfare
Is
field.
India really ready with the kind of technology needed for electronics warfare?
Our industry has of late achieved some breakthrough in the electronic warfare, but majority of the systems we have been depending on the outside countries, and especially Israel and few other countries. They have been helping us quite a lot in the electronic warfare field.
But there's always a twist, right? If they choose not to share their technology with us,
Yes.
the jurisdiction lies
Yes,
with
there
them.
are several constraints in this particular field. In this case, why we should be indigenously totally dependent, self-dependent as far as this kind of technologies are concerned is that they have to get the government approval to share that. Every industry in every country, such industry, they have to take the government approval before they can share it with another country.
Right.
So, and you have to be a friendly country to get this particular technology. Second is there are many upgradations, very frequent upgradations in this particular
Mm-hmm.
technology, because communication technology is changing very fast. So, interception technology and the related technologies of signal intelligence also changes. So, we have to also keep pace with
Rising
the
trend.
rising trend. So, that becomes extremely difficult. And with social media and so much of means of communication coming in, and see, when the communication is through the air, it's possible to intercept. But if it is through fiber optics,
It is difficult.
optical fiber cable,
Mm-hmm.
you see optical fiber being used everywhere. When it is through that, it becomes extremely difficult. So yes, we have to come up with new types of technology to intercept. And when there's so much of information, to find that particular uh, thing, intelligence out of that whole huge amount of volume of traffic, it's a needle in the haystack, they call it. You
Right.
have to find a needle in the haystack.
So coming back to your career
Mm.
as a army person, you've served more than three decades of your life in the army, and you were also posted in Kashmir.
Yes.
And Kashmir has so many angles to it. It is a prized state of the country. We as general public have certain sentiments attached to the state. Kashmiris have their own sentiments. The exodus happened. That is another curved ball to it. And of course, the unrest that has been happening in the last 1 decade, the 370 article. I mean, Kashmir has always been, and at the
Y-
center of every
Yeah.
discussion when it comes to India.
Yes.
How was your experience, while serving at Kashmir?
See, my tenure in Kashmir was very little more in the Jammu region, but I have got quite in-depth information about the valley, because I we used to operate remotely in those areas, because I was in the field of communication intelligence. So most of the communications we used to intercept sitting in other parts of the country. But uh, yes, I was the colonel administration and headquarter, the Chinar Corps. Chinar Corps is the main corps, which 15 corps is which operates in Kashmir. So I was in the corps headquarter at that time, and I used to see all kinds of operations, being hear of all kinds of operations. Though proper in Kashmir Valley, I haven't participated in the operations, but yes, I know it has been in the always been in the news.
Right. And talking about the recent times,
Hmm.
you leading the signal corps. Do you really think we somehow there was a lapse in our communication agencies that we could not know about this kind of an attack happening, or was there some kind of notion that it was supposed to happen and we somehow
Communication, as I said, brought out little while earlier, the communications is becoming complex day by day,
right?
especially the encryption part.
Mm-hmm.
All kinds of communications are getting encrypted.
Mm-hmm.
Take, for example, HTTPS.
Mm-hmm.
HTTPS means you cannot I mean, break the communication. WhatsApp communication, it is encrypted.
End to
You
end.
cannot, okay, you cannot break it. So that is how they are also getting encryption. So that is why it has become a big challenge for all of us. That is what, and they are using some kind of communication, which is mostly known as ultra.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, ultra communication. And maybe they had some information through ultra, and yes, we had partial success in breaking ultra, but uh, of late they have also changed the encryption techniques in ultra. So that is how it has become a bigger challenge for the security forces.
Was there any ultra signal happening before the Pahalgam
I
attack?
heard somewhere someone talking about it, that yes, they had opened up ultra a few days back, but
When we say they, we mean
uh, they means the militant organizations.
who planned the attack.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. So Ultra is an exclusive communication network which they militant organizations they have set up. The main transmitter is there across the border in the in Pakistan, and they have some kind of handheld radio set and mobile, which through which they communicate with short messages.
And you're talking about this happened just before the Pahalgam attack, that there
No,
was some kind of
see,
conversation.
I'm not sure about it because I haven't got any first-hand information on this. I heard some news channel talking about that. Yes, they had uh, reactivated the ultra communications few days back.
Before the Pahalgam
Yes,
attack.
yes. So this is not authentic, but yes, I had heard. Maybe this was an indication that something big is going to take place.
But why Pahalgam? I mean, there are so many other places in Kashmir they could have attacked.
See, that's a very good question, Tanya. Why I'm saying they have to come to the limelight. Now, how
Hmm.
do they come? They have to make an event, something big. They created Uris long back, and they saw what is the result. Now, something like Uri just cannot happen. Okay. Now, what do? They started killing this civilian laborers from Bihar or UP who were working to come into the limelight. That also
Didn't work so much.
that backfired on them.
Hmm.
Okay, and then they started targeting the security, their own Kashmiri friends who were working with the security forces. Okay,
Right.
that also backfired on them. So they wanted to have something soft target where they know that yes, army will not come. Incidentally, the army is not there anywhere close by that particular
It has
place
never
where
been there.
no, not I'll not call it never been there. Pelgam, the army is, yeah, based on the situation. For example, the Amarnath Yatra, maybe they will get activated. So whenever the situation is very tense in that area, only then army is activated there. Otherwise,
There
army
was no
has
reason for
there is
army to
no
be there.
hard. And you must be knowing the army has been removed from all important. I mean, in proper Srinagar, there is no army is not active. Similarly, Baramulla and other places they have been removed, and it has been replaced with CRPF, paramilitary forces. So that way, army was nowhere close by
Hmm.
to come and do some take necessary action. Okay, so that is how they choose. They had chosen this particular spot, and you must realize that nobody could imagine that they would attack the tourists. They would. They, I mean, attacking the tourists means they are attacking on themselves because tourists are their lifeline. The whole Kashmir Valley survives on tourism.
Hmm.
Huh. Other than apples and dry fruits, I think
There
tourism
is
is
no
the
other
main.
industry
Yes,
working
there
there,
is no
right?
industry in Kashmir. So this was actually hitting on their own belly.
But
So
a lot of general public in Kashmir has come out and they have condemned this act of terror and
yes, they have to. I mean, no Kashmiri would support such kind of action. I'm sure Kashmiris had no inclination about all this kind of thing. Had they got this kind of inclination, they would have stopped this particular militancy. And I'm sure they must be repenting that why did they support this militancy now, who have done such kind of which who have taken such kind of steps.
You're right.
Yeah.
But social media has been rife with speculations of all kinds. And there is one such speculation that an act of terror so huge, of such an intensity, could not have had taken place without the role of localites participating in it. Do you think there is any pinch of truth in it?
See, local aids, what do they do? There are two, three ways of local aid support. One is, yes, you do wholeheartedly support.
Mm-hmm.
And when you support particular militants, what do you do? You allow them to stay in your house,
Right.
you feed them
Right.
for a few days, maybe 2 days, 3 days, or maybe 15 days.
Right.
Okay, they keep on hiding in a particular house.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that is how you support. Sometimes, or most of the times, under pressure. Otherwise,
Kill
they
them,
will kill you.
yes.
Okay, they, that is one way. Second thing, they do not know what are these going to chaps, what are their intentions. They think it is like normal militancy. They did not know, they would not have known that they have come here to kill these tourists.
Mm-hmm.
That is my personal opinion, that they would not have ever imagined. No Kashmiri would ever imagine that they will start targeting tourists.
Right. Why ask religion before, conducting this heinous act of killing innocent people?
That's wonderful. I mean, what you are asking is very hard-hitting question. Uh, See, when this people say that terrorism has got no religion, strongly has have got a lot of, I mean, uh, pro- problems with that particular statement, because this particular whatever you are seeing here, this terrorist organization, they have been created based on a religion.
Mm-hmm.
And you must have heard this the army chief talking about Hindu
The
Muslim.
Muslim divide, yes.
Maybe he had some kind of inclination that something like this is going to happen, and that is how why he spoke so much against Hinduism,
Mm-hmm.
so much of hatred against Hinduism.
Right before the
Okay,
attack
right
took place.
before just about a week before the attack. That is what I was wondering, that maybe he would have got an indication from the ISA, and the ISA has got this done, and maybe something this particular in this operation, uh, they were targeting because they have been told to do this particular kill Hindus selectively. This
Segregate
is
them.
so, yes, so unfortunate.
Right. I guess you were still in service, Brigadier, when the surgical strike took place.
Yes, I was in
Yes.
service. Yes.
And ever since the surgical strike, no such act of terror had actually taken place for the past 6 years.
Uh,
Not
uh,
of this intensity.
a surgical strike after that Balakot took place in 2019.
Right.
Pulwama was somewhere in February 2019, and after that, this is the major incident which has taken place
Right.
after 6 years.
Why now?
Maybe they had they got the opportunity, they would have been doing it almost every month, every week.
Right.
Huh? It is that way. I compliment the government or the security forces that they have not allowed them to do something
For the
like
last
this.
6 years, yes.
And finally, what did they do? They killed innocents where nobody could imagine. They have hit on their own people's belly.
You're right. Right. So, especially after the Pahalgam attack, the 99 war, I was too young to be able to,
Yes.
understand anything that was happening at that time. But now, when I'm old enough to understand, it usually baffles me with how many different jargons people have been throwing. Like, people call these kind of, people as extremists. People also sometimes call them as militants. And then there is, of course, the old word terrorist. Are they different from each other? A militant, a terrorist, an
See,
extremist, or are they same?
they, to my mind, they hardly actually matter.
Mm-hmm.
Even if there is some difference, they all of the means same
Modus operandi is
modus operandi is same. So I have never actually gone into the literal meaning of
each word.
terrorism, militancy, or things like that. So actually it is the same thing. We use in different terms,
Mm,
terrorism or militancy. Mm. Terrorism ideally means where actually you are creating terror.
right.
And militancy was, yeah, I mean, these are literal meanings.
Mm,
But we as army men never look into literal meanings. We
mm-hmm.
just see terrorists, militants. Yeah, actually, these words come. How does this terrorism come? It is from the word terror.
Terror, yes.
Militancy means you are using some kind of militant way of killing. So that is how the difference comes in. But it hardly matters for an army man.
Right. So the Pulwama attack,
Yes.
and then we have the Pahalgam attack.
Hmm.
And do you really think we are, India is going into a war with Pakistan, or there is, it's all just
See,
speculations?
uh, war, full-fledged war, I don't think India is going into it, or we should be going into it. Yes, we should be taking some kind of action. That is my personal opinion, and the government knows the best. The the people who are in the position to take decisions, they know the best. Uh, I'm sure some action, like when surgical strike took place or the Balakot strike took place, nobody knew what is going to happen. Okay, nobody predicted all this.
When you say
So
nobody, you mean the army
no, many
personnel,
the general public,
the general public,
general
yes.
public, the people who are decision makers only then knew
You're
that
right.
this is going to take place, or who are actually involved in the operations. Otherwise, I'm sure something is going to happen. Okay. And it may not be a military way of happening, like Indus Water Treaty, blocking Indus at Water Treaty is one way. Maybe some kind of, yeah, when you hear the Prime Minister, the Home Minister talking about chun chun ke marenge. Okay. I don't know whether I should take it as a political statement or a truth. Okay. You have to read in between the lines. What does it mean? Okay. I see a lot of media also reading in between the lines. But yes, there may be something else other than the Army, Navy, Air Force. Okay. And you see yesterday the Prime Minister met the Navy chief. Yesterday and today he met the Air Force chief. That means maybe he's trying to talk to them separately. Not
Mm-hmm.
okay. Maybe something Navy is planning or something Air Force is planning. It is nobody can also predict or
Oh,
knows.
so do you mean to say that whatever Navy is planning, the Air Force can't know, and whatever Air Force
Yes,
is planning, the
if the
Navy
Navy,
can't?
if the Air Force is not involved, Navy is doing on its own. Why should Air Force know? Okay, I mean when surgical strike took place, how was Air Force and Navy involved? Okay,
Right.
okay, maybe except for providing those helicopters for the army,
Mm-hmm.
nothing else. Similarly, when Air Force was, I mean, involved in Balakot, the army was not involved. I'm sure कि even army chief, I doubt whether he also knew or not. Okay,
Right.
maybe he knew it, but that is also a doubtful question.
So
Okay.
it's a need to know basis kind of work.
Exactly. Need to know basis. That is how it should operate, and that is how it has been operating. So we should have faith in our the decision makers, and I'm sure they are taking corrective actions. Full-fledged war is not the right solution because uh, we are all nuclear-powered nations, and Pakistan is a rogue state. We call it typical
Rogue
army
state.
rogue state. So, उसका
Very
they themselves
unpredictable.
confess कि हमारे ऊपर एक अगर न्यूक्लियर बम गिरेगा कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा चाहे 10 भी गिर जाए कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा बट इंडिया के ऊपर एक पड़ जाएगा तो they will go back by 20 years. Okay, the whole economy will crash. Okay, so I mean, when India is going so fast economically, when the foreign investors are investing in India, for example, you take it, this iPhones are being made in India. The industry is shifting from China to India. Okay, with this tariff war. Now, if something happens, even Apple will get out of India. Will it be okay for India? Okay, when we are trying to attract foreign investors and something like this happens, so I'm sure they must be planning something. Not sure. I presume they would be planning something localized, local kind of operations.
चुन
और
चुन के मारेंगे.
चुन चुन के मारेंगे. Correct.
राइट.
Hmm.
अभी तक हमने शुरू नहीं किया है.
ठीक, वो किया नहीं है, क्या है, लास्ट फ्यू इयर्स यू must be reading in the news 20 to 30 militant
High
supporters, they
officials,
have been wiped out. I don't know who has
unknown
done it,
gunmen.
who has done it, how they have done it, but ये भी something like चुन चुन के मारना है.
Right.
Okay, and they have taken Hafiz Saeed into some kind of bunker or somewhere. That is what is coming out in the news. Maybe they also know.
Are there any chances that India would go into a tactical war against Pakistan?
See, when I say this localized war, these
Mm,
are all tactical wars.
tactical
Tactical
wars.
means whatever you can see. I mean, strategic is the opposite of tactical is strategic. Strategic when you go in with a big way.
Mhm.
When I say localized means they are tactical level where the effect is much lesser.
Mhm.
Strategic is much bigger when it is much bigger.
Right. Um, Brigadier, tell me this. You made a very valid point that at a point at the turn of a century when India is trying to attract more and more foreign investors, and we are at the cusp of a war happening or not happening, what actually happens to the other army personnel, the soldiers, the low ranking officials? What goes through their mind?
See, in the army, everybody is inspired to face any situation. To be very frank, now that I have interacted, I have worked in a civil organization, and now I am totally civilian. Even NTRO, I'll call it it was partially civilian organization. But here, I see that people are scared. In army, everyone, 99% people are totally, I mean, they want some kind of action or something.
They're ready
They
to
they are
face it.
prepared to face any kind of action. Okay, and not that they want the war. Okay, but given a chance,
They'll not
they
back
will
out.
never back out or find any excuses not to go to the war.
Right.
Yes, and I have seen that after during Parakram, when we mobilized the border areas and we're sitting there for a year, and every day something or the other information was coming, and everybody was in full, yeah, whatever task given. You told about the ranks. The ranks don't plan; they execute the plan. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if somebody has to, I mean, if a particular platoon has been given this particular task, he will do his task. Okay, कि दस yes मुझे इधर से जाना है, मुड़ के जाना है. He is not seeing the overall plan. Okay,
Right.
so that is how he is doing his job, and
Mm-hmm.
he is inspired or he has been trained to do his job. Whatever these or company commander tells him or the platoon commander tells him, that is how he operates.
Mm-hmm. Right. So I'll come back to,
Hmm.
Kashmir. And I've always, while growing up, Kashmir has had so many narratives to it. There is, an Indian narrative to it. There is a Kashmiri narrative to it. There's a Kashmiri Pandit narrative to it. There is a militant narrative to it. And then there is always a Pakistani narrative to it,
Yes.
that plays totally into the religion and whatnot. And having said that, I have seen a lot of different types of, mixed media. And by mixed media, I mean documentaries, movies, and, a lot of different movies have portrayed, to just name one of the leading actors of Bollywood, Shahid Kapoor. He played a role in a movie called Heather. And in that movie, there were a lot of places, a lot of plots where, it was shown that, the Kashmiri general public was scared of Indian army. And that is another narrative. Is it really, there is some fact to it, or is this something we should take with a pinch of salt?
See, first thing, I mean, you must understand Kashmiris have little religious bent of mind. Whatever developments you do, some Kashmiris, they have little affiliation for uh, getting what you call as the freedom or something. Some Kashmiris. So what do they do? What I mean, from that, and that is where. And the other part is this: in the Friday prayers in the masjids, a lot of brainwashing takes place. And it used to take place earlier also, even now also must be taking place. That is where they are told that yes, the government of India is suppressing you, your freedom is snatched away, things like that. That is that is why they are maybe supporting the militants,
Mm-hmm.
supporting the militancy, I'll call it, and army does some operations in the villages. For
Mm-hmm.
example, I come to know, I get some information that three militants are hiding in a particular house
In a village.
in a village. So what does the army do? It does a cordon and search operation. It surrounds that village in the night. But early morning, the people come to know, yes, they have been surrounded. So nobody is allowed to come into the village. Nobody is allowed to get out of the village.
Okay.
So
It's a proper lockdown.
yes, proper lockdown in the village. So they request all the villagers to come out to their houses. Their proper breakfast, tea, etc. are arranged for them. Sit down in a school or something. Okay, their proper frisking is done, and after that, they are, I mean, given very good treatment. But then the house owners are taken one by one to each of the houses, and the houses are searched. That is how it takes place, and the operations take place also. Wherever militants are hiding, they would fire at these people, these security forces. That is how the operation takes place. But it causes a lot of inconvenience to them.
Mm.
So, in many situations, because they are supporting this militancy, some people, and the army is against them, so they are anti-army. So
Mm-hmm.
and of late, army has taken lots of steps. A lot of welfare measures are being taking place in the uh, rural area of the Kashmir Valley.
Mm-hmm.
The schools have been opened. I'm forgetting the name of the schools. There is a chain of schools kind of thing.
All
So
opened by the Indian Army.
yes, Indian Army. Okay, and there is a special fund given by the government of India to open these schools there. And every time this sudden and search operation takes place, the doctors go and line up there to check do the medical checkup of all persons there. So this is how army is trying to pacify them. And not always. There is a general perception, maybe the people who hate the army, they are coming out in the limelight.
Mm-hmm.
But those who support army, it is only known when you actually meet the people,
Mm-hmm.
or when you talk to them. Actually, that is not coming out in the social media.
Correct.
Those people do not have access to the social media. Maybe in the social media, to make to hide this particular information, that is how it comes out. Otherwise, uh, I don't call it that yes, whole mass, so they love the army. At least this kind of hatred which is coming out in the social media, it is not there.
Right. And speaking of social media, which is absolutely rife with
Mm.
speculations, I mean, the majority of Indian mass is still enraged with the Pahalgam attack, and rightly so. But there are a lot of speculations that say that with this tactical or the all-out war that
Mm.
India is planning to rage on Pakistan, we would be easily, taking over POK. Do you agree with that?
I do not agree with this particular statements which several, media houses keep talking about. Mm. There are a few reasons to that. First is, uh, Pakistan has already considered some particular land, Saxgam Valley, to China in 1963,
Mm-hmm.
and China has developed it like anything. Okay, so this particular valley and the China Pakistan Economic Corridor (CPEC)
Mm-hmm.
runs through POK. So that
So
means
even if Pakistan
so
doesn't retaliate,
so
China
and
would.
China, you are actually confronting China.
China, right?
So China's economy depends on CPEC corridor.
Okay, which
So,
happens to be in
to be
POK.
in POK. So these are two aspects as far as China is concerned. Third thing, uh, this what are you going to achieve if
By
by
taking over
taking POK?
POK. Hmm.
We must actually, yes, if at all we have to take POK, we must take certain parts which are going to be useful for us. Okay. The,
With respect to tourism?
no, no, maybe the whole access to Jammu Kashmir.
Jammu and Kashmir.
For example, Hajipir Pass.
Hmm.
Hajipir Pass connects Punch with Uri. Okay. That's a very important pass, as important as Banial Pass.
Okay, it's a
No,
very
yeah, I
tactical
mean that.
point. Okay.
Yes. So, I mean, that is one important area. And of course, some areas like mm, Cham, Joria, and all, they are, I mean, I think they are Indian friendly, those areas. And maybe, frankly speaking, I do not have the first hand information. There are some locations which are good, or maybe some tourism places like Gilgit, and we can see to that. But otherwise, mm, I mean, POK, taking whole POK is out of question.
Hmm.
Maybe some portions of POK we can attempt.
Right. Would it actually cease, the kind of unrest that we are seeing now in Kashmir if we take over some parts of
I,
POK?
I don't visualize that.
Hmm.
The reason being, it is not the people of POK who are creating all these nuisance. It is the proper Pakistan people who are creating this nuisance in the Kashmir Valley. So, taking over POK means you have added some more portions to Kashmir Valley.
Hmm.
That's all.
Coming back to my previous question, like why now? Why the attack now? And you mentioned that if they had the chance, they would have attacked every month of
Hmm.
every year. And kudos to our security system that, we have been able to stand a guard. But I really want to understand that even if this was an act of frustration, even if they wanted to just come into the limelight and this was just a pure act of frustration, I'm sure they must have realized somewhere before or during or after the act of this terrorism in Pahalgam that India was not going to keep quiet. There was some kind of retaliation coming their way, and they
Actually,
still did it.
actually, you are right. But you must understand, appreciate this fact that people who are planning this, they are least bothered about what is going to happen to the rest of Pakistan. Pakistan economy, the debt situation, the GDP or political situation, nothing. Their focus is to come to the limelight. You think they would consult the government of Pakistan before doing this? They would never do that. It is only those people who are focused on to come to just to come to the limelight. They plan such things.
But
Okay.
the army of Pakistan is also involved in this attack to
Yeah.
some extent. There are
Yes.
speculations
The
that
army also knows. They nobody is bothered about that. The Pakistani army, they are on the back foot now. In the Afghanistan border also they are on the back foot. In Balochistan, you know how the train was hijacked. So they are on the back foot there. So they also wanted to gain some kind
grounds.
of some ground. Maybe that is why. So I'm sure they would not have consulted their political bosses for creating this, if at all they are involved.
Right. And I don't want to call it a speculation, but allegedly, it is now believed that Hamas had a role to play in this Pahalgam attack. It was staged or maybe rehearsed because it had a hint of Hamas to it.
Yes, yes, the uh, actions what we saw on 7th October 23, and here it is almost similar. Okay. Only thing is modus operandi, how they came was different, or it was, I mean, but the thought process, the thought behind it was similar. And we also know that Hamas leaders came and addressed gatherings and had a lot of meetings with the Pakistanis. They were in Pakistan few days back. So that they speculating this is there is nothing. I also think so that yes, there is some
Hamas had a
Hamas.
direct hand in this.
Yes,
But what would Hamas get out of it? The religious sentiment
yes,
support?
it is the religious sentiment. It is all religion-based militancy, and that is how anything which supports their religion, any action, they would try and get it.
Right, because if you look at all the leading tabloids from across the globe, you would see that Hamas has a lot of support. I mean, a lot of people are coming in support of Hamas in Palestine, and people have so much so, equivalated them that Hamas is equal to Palestine rights movement,
Yes.
or, they are the
Yes.
freedom fighters for Palestine. So, would it be right to say that, with Hamas playing a hand in this entire act of terror in Pahalgam, they were actually trying to bank on that emotional sentiment linked to the religious sentiments?
Of course, yes. They are trying, whatever the Hamas, wherever they are getting an opportunity of spreading such kind of acts, they are trying to exploit it. Okay. So they here, when they came in contact with the Pakistani groups,
Hmm.
militant groups, they they would have discussed this particular plan. That is what is my presumption.
Right.
That is how this would have come up in their discussion table.
Right. And Pakistan has reached out to Bangladesh, and Bangladesh, initially wanted to play a role as a
Actually,
mediator.
it's a joke. Actually, to my mind, in Bangladesh, telling, I mean, actually, it's wrong in army's term. We never underestimate the enemy or anybody,
Hmm.
anything. Huh. But yes, staying outside, I can say uh, Bangladesh is no match. Okay. So that's of little consequence. It is just for Bangladesh wants to come into the limelight in the news. Okay.
But when you look at the history, Bangladesh had a better history with us than Pakistan, and why would they come in support of Pakistan
Or
now?
I mean, that's a different story altogether. That student movement in Bangladesh and the Sheikh Hasina being thrown out and Yunus coming in, it's a different story altogether. Different story. So, I mean, that the whole government has changed. Had Sheikh Hasina been there, though, they should not have. I mean, there was no
They
question of
have
this.
no
Huh?
history.
I mean, and whatever is happening, they cannot control their own Islamic forces or
Hmm.
movement in their own country. They cannot control their own army chief. I mean, what are they are making a mockery of the whole system. Their financial position or the economic position is uh, going to from bad to worse. So, I mean, and with that, they are saying they will fight with India. Okay.
They'll
Yes,
take sides.
I can understand. Yes, they are seeking support from China, and yes, something to do with they will get some access through India to China.
Hmm.
I mean, that is okay, understandable. But to support Pakistan from the eastern front is a little bit too much. Yes, had China been getting involved, then Bangladesh could have been a. I
If we
mean,
choose to, if
yes,
we
yes.
choose to capture POK, China definitely gets involved.
Whole POK, I'm sure India would not try also. Maybe some portions in POK, if at all. I mean, but the probability is very minimal.
From a very personal and objective point of view, as an ex-army person, what is your stand right now? What should be that one step that India should take against Pakistan to retaliate against Pahalgam attack?
See, I fully support whatever actions have already been taken. Okay. And uh, yes, some localized actions can take place. Localized, yeah. For example, I'll tell you. Now you always read in the news that yes, there is a ceasefire violation in the borders. Every day you see in the news. Maybe that will escalate a bit. Someday you will find artillery guns being fired at a particular locations. Okay. Someday some troops moving ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that in a local formation only. When rest of the borders they are all secured, no action takes place.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that, I presume. I mean, that is how the localized action takes place.
Takes place.
Hmm,
For our young
hmm.
followers of TWT Tanya, what would an all-out war mean for India and its citizens?
You see, any war, it will bleed the country like anything. Any
Mm-hmm.
war. I read in the papers that Russia. GDP has grown, but actually Russia is bleeding.
Mhm.
That is my that is how I understand. It is selling oil to other countries at a much discounted price.
Mhm.
So it is like I'm selling my gold,
At the
whatever
price
was
of
as the
copper.
reserve, at the price of discounted price
Hmm.
to you,
Hmm.
because otherwise I can't survive. I cannot leave.
What does that tell you about
Yes.
me? Hmm.
So why is it selling at a discounted price? Because it wants foreign exchange. It wants to survive economically. So I mean, why does it do? And they cannot move out. Russians cannot go. They are being, I mean, not being given that kind of support in the Olympics, the professional tennis tournaments and things like that. So I mean, that is how it is suffering. Actually, whatever one may say, it is suffering. So when you talk about any war, the country suffers. You think Israel is not suffering? Israel
Mhm.
is totally ruined. What about the business, the kind of innovations the Israel was doing? I mean,
It's all turned on
everybody
halt, yes.
is busy in the fight. Okay. Israel, I mean, Israel has been supporting Indian army for in so many ways. Now those chaps have gone back. Who is maintaining or supplying those weapon systems or the electronic systems to India?
Right.
So, I mean, they are suffering. They are not getting that foreign exchange. So that is how, which they should have got from India. They are not getting it.
Right. So war will bleed us out from all
Yes,
fronts.
definitely. It will take us back 10 years, 20 years back. Okay, whatever we have achieved over a period of, let's say, last 10, 15 years, that will again take us back. Not only that, whatever advancement, I mean, economically, we are the fastest growing economy. Now, that will also fall like anything. We are attempting to become third largest economy in the world.
Hmm.
What will happen to that? You think from that point of view, we have, with a lot of difficulty, a lot of effort, we have come to the fifth position or the fourth position, whatever. But again, we will go back. Okay, imagine every country, any country going into the war suffers heavily.
So we have had, Taj attack. It was preposterous and monstrous in its intensity. It was brutal. But why is Pahalgam attack more personal this time? I mean, I'm sure we had, a lot of people were enraged at that point of time as well. But the kind of, backlash we are seeing right now from the majority of Indians towards the Pahalgam attack, the intensity of such backlash was, minimal. Of course, due to the
I would beg to differ on this particular view, Tanya, just because I also feel in 2008 there was a lot of, I mean, yeah, maybe it did not come out in the social media or things like that.
of course, yes.
Maybe you are more involved with social media. That is how you come to know, or the media is so active. That is why we feel Pahalgam attack. But 2000 people, 2008 people were equally uh, felt angry about this particular thing, and they wanted the that we should take some kind of action.
But
Some
there was no speculation of
so
going into a war at that time.
I beg to differ. I mean, at that time also, yeah, maybe now because of the surgical strike or the Balakot strike, people's aspirations have
Have
grown.
gone, yes,
Yes,
yes, yes, of
maybe
course.
they want something more.
Something more.
Dil mage more. Okay, so that is why at that time they were sure that yes, nothing was going to happen. Maybe something should happen. Oh,
The surgical strike, for me was like a complete makeover for India. Until then, we were all the global gurus, the yoga
yes,
gurus.
yes,
We were the preachers of peace and non-violence.
yes.
But with the surgical strike, we became the angry young man. You give me, I'll give you back good.
Yeah,
So
yes,
I think
that
that
is
that
what.
was, yes,
Yes. Huh. And now I presume something will happen. I don't know what, and nobody knows
right,
except for those decision makers.
right.
Hmm.
It was lovely having you on board with us for this episode,
Uh,
and I learned so much. And I'm sure, whatever we see in movies, what we hear in stories, and what we see and read every day on reels and memes and social media, the real war, the real heroes of the war are far, far away from the truth. And I really respect. I must say that, sacrificing, to be able to sacrifice the ultimate thing, that is your life itself, for the, for the country and for the country's welfare, and not wanting to come into the limelight, never asking for it. This has been splendid, and it was so inspirational to talk to you, to be able to see the other side, and not just through movies, magazines, or newspapers, but actually sit across you and look at Indian Army. At this point of time, I could only salute you and the Indian Army with my whole heart. And thank you so much for making
Thank,
time for us,
thank you.
and for all the words that you've shared with us. And it was splendid having you on board. Thank you so much. And for you guys who are watching
Thank you.
us, if you have any questions, you could comment down below. Do give us a like, share, and subscribe. See you guys in the next episode of Tea with Tanya. Until then, please take care. Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.